Everyone, I'm Bill Worster, aka Zazubaar. You know me, I like Godzilla. A new Godzilla thing has been released. And I have a certain tradition that I like to uphold whenever this kind of thing happens. And that is to get three other Godzilla fans together and do a fucking incredible, mind-blowing, tangent-filled discussion about it. I have David Joshua Hernandez. He's better known to you all as Gorzard.
Eh.
Oh, God. That's a good start. He has a stroke right at the start. Dylan McCandless, Super DM 64.
Hi, everybody.
Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
Hello, people of the internet.
Guys, a new Godzilla. I say Godzilla thing because I know it technically is a movie, but you know it was released straight.
Is it though, Bill?
Yeah, well, that's
It's weird. It's like it's formatted like the first. It's formatted like the pilot of a TV show, according to Netflix.
Yeah, well, that's how I watched it, and that's how it felt to me. Is like it feels a lot like the first VHS in a series of release for an anime, like the first 3 episodes packaged as like one tape.
True,
yeah.
Off to me.
I hate to start. I hate to start off listing one of my main criticisms, but if there's one huge problem here, it's that this doesn't feel like the first film in a trilogy of films. It feels like the first part of a miniseries, but a really long miniseries that we're going to get over the course of like 3 years.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that. But if we don't get that, I'm not necessarily going to be sad. Let's talk about this. So we're all together. I'm glad we were able to do this. Like I said, it's a tradition I like to uphold. This is the way to talk about Godzilla. And this is the first Godzilla anime. You know, all the other bullshit about it aside.
What about Godzilla?
Yeah, where's Gojira? Was that her name?
Where's she?
Gojira. Wait, yeah, where's Gojira?
Also, I guess
what he said
there's
with
also
the weird accent.
What was it called?
Shin-chan
versus the Shin Gojira. Yeah, but this is like the first one that's like this is the first one that attempts to tell any kind of serious narrative. So this is a big deal on that level.
Oh, wait, man. Okay, hey, man. That story from Godzilla about Mechagodzilla kidnapping Anguirus because he has no friends, man. That's some serious shit right there. I got emotionally invested in that story.
You know what that is? It's more emotional than most of the human stuff in this. You're right.
You see, Mechagodzilla, he doesn't know how to make friends, man. He's just socially awkward. He just doesn't know, man. He tries too hard, and it ends up pushing everyone away.
Oh my God!
Bill, are you saying that Are you saying?
By the way, that's really a thing that happens in Godzilla.
I'm so sorry that I underestimated Godzilla. I mean, my God, I'm really depressed now. Like I feel like I came on here with like, oh, this is a cool thing, even though it's not necessarily my favorite thing, but it's a cool thing. It's less cool now. Oh,
Bill, are you suggesting that the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai from Dragon Ball, in which King Ghidorah can be seen in the background, is not a serious storyline?
That's not a storyline. It's a cameo.
Who knows? Maybe Ghidorah has his own reason for being there. That could have been the part of an interesting story.
Technically,
Why not?
Godzilla shows up in Pee-wee's fucking Big Adventure, so that's a great Godzilla movie then, right?
Master Roshi has a pet baby Gamera, so why not? I don't care.
Everything is a great Godzilla thing when you think about it. Or
my favorite Godzilla anime is Godzilla versus Charles Barkley. I think that's the best.
But that wasn't animated. It was a comic book, and then it was a commercial.
The CG in that is better than this movie, good sir.
There's not really I guess there's not really a whole lot of CG in that though. It's mostly like it's just Lucasfilm's version of Suitimation.
The Suitimation, it has animation because you're technically moving something in there.
Okay, true. Wow. I
didn't
know you guys were going to attack me so much for just saying
it has animation in the title.
Oh God! See, this is what you guys are here for, to exhaust me and attack me when I'm just trying to intro the fucking thing we're talking about. So, Godzilla: Planet of the Monsters, the CG anime they released on Netflix a few days ago.
You're about to say Planet of the Apes.
I was not.
Yeah. Where are you, Bill? Where are you?
No, I wasn't.
I wish
at
this
all.
was I wish this was Godzilla Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
That
that
would
would
But
be
instead we got Kong on the Planet of the
Oh,
Apes.
which I'm so excited about. I can't wait for that to be released in trade so I can read it. And then they can do Godzilla on the Planet of the Apes. That'll be great. So, alright. So here's how we should do this. We're going to go around, round robin, and we're going to ask if everybody liked it. Alright, I'm going to start on the top of my Skype thing here. This is probably going to be a bad idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. David,
oh no.
did you like it?
It was okay. It was excruciatingly mediocre. I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it either.
Okay. Is that all you want to say, intro, or?
I mean, I'm probably going to bring this up later, maybe not, but I'll just say it now. I feel like I can't judge it too much because, like I said earlier, Bill, the trilogy is basically a 3-hour movie if you think about it, and Planet of the Monsters was technically like Act 1 of that 3-hour movie. Even Netflix has put it out as part 1 of something.
So, certainly something.
That's certainly not how it's originally sold, especially in its home country. It was advertised, marketed, and released as its own unique movie, singular entity.
Well, Andres, let's hop over to you then, because you saw it in that venue. Did you like it?
Yes.
And he mistranslated certain scenes.
Yes, I did, and I will gladly admit that. But however, my overall assumption of the movie still remains the same, having now seen the official English dub of the film. Pretty much watching the movie in English has only strengthened my overall opinions that I stated in my original review back in November, in that it's merely okay. As a Godzilla movie, it makes some interesting ideas, but I don't think it goes far enough with those ideas. And for an introductory first chapter, it fails to entice me like any other thing. And people would argue that this is the beginning of a story, but for a beginning, you need to captivate the audience. To which point, it did not do the same with me. But I still think there are enough points there to make it an okay experience. So yeah, just like these two guys, my overall opinion is just, it's all right.
Dylan McCandless, Super Damn 60. Did you like it?
Overall, I'd say that Godzilla Planet of the Monsters is the most disappointing thing since My Son. No, it's...
That's a pretty big revelation.
I understood that reference.
I'll pretty much back up what Andres just said. Everything I like about this movie is in the ideas, and everything I don't like about it is in the execution of those ideas. And it doesn't really work on its own. And to refute David's point about how it's the first part in a 3-part story and it's just the first act. Yeah, but all the best trilogies manage to do that while still working on their own as individual movies. The Lord of the Rings is like one big 9-hour-long movie, and that's if you're watching theatrical cuts. Yet each individual movie still works on its own, to varying degrees. Two Towers the least of them because it's the middle chapter. But the point is, the first movie is its own thing, the second movie is its own thing, the third movie is its own thing, but they still manage to tell an overall cohesive story. And I think that's also true of any of the great trilogies, Star Wars, most recently the Planet of the Apes Caesar trilogy that just wrapped up. So yeah, you do have to give it a little bit of leeway for only being Act 1, so to speak, but at the same time, Act 1 didn't work, unfortunately. And that's all just story complaints. The other big problem is that I fucking hate the animation, but I suspect that'll be a whole portion of this video unto itself, so...
There is certainly a lot to say, so I'll be brief. I definitely come around to most of your guys' points of views. I think we're definitely all in the same wheelhouse on this one. I didn't love it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was gonna, though. I was definitely pleasantly surprised by how into it I was. I definitely wasn't all right, I'm checking my phone constantly to see when this is gonna end. That being said, I think the biggest problem with this thing is that it does drag. All the aesthetic stuff, I got over that. I didn't get over it, but I expected that, and I kind of just accepted it from the onset. So I was really just kind of able to see, all right, well, what is this thing about? What's it trying to do? What are they actually doing with Godzilla and the universe here? And I thought mostly, like you guys said, in ideas, it was all really strong. And execution-wise, I think I liked a lot more of the dialogue than I expected to. I thought the English dub was pretty solid overall.
Oh, I think so too.
Most of the problems seem in the original script to me. It doesn't seem like there were really any like, oh man, they bastardized the intent. It seems like they did a pretty good job. But that being said, I think why it drags because it doesn't know if it wants to be a movie or the first 3 episodes of an anime. You know, it doesn't know if it wants to be like leisurely and flesh out the characters because they're going to be living with them for a while, or if it wants to emphasize the emotional weight of the action and how that impacts the characters and explore them that way. It attempts both to varying degrees of success, but largely you definitely tune out at like 3 major points. After you start to get into all the space stuff, after the first battle with the weird dragons, and
Servum.
Right, okay, so I couldn't remember the name. And then after the first encounter with Godzilla, there's definitely like several lulls. And I was really surprised by how into the human stuff I was certainly initially, and how interesting the universe turned out to be, despite all of my fucking gripes with the concepts from. So like I said, overall, I was actually pleasantly surprised. But yeah, no, it's got a lot of stuff holding it back that it just didn't need. It didn't have to be held back this much by all these uncertainties. And, I think you guys at least hinted at this. Really generic execution and ideas for the designs and just how are we going to do Godzilla in animation? Well, what is everybody else doing? We'll do that, and then we'll make them a big plant, or a big tree,
Interestingly,
or a big metal rock thing, whatever the hell he is.
That apparently
enough,
I was going to say, according to like some commenter who told me like on my review. Sorry, Dylan. Somebody commented on my original review, sharing with me the gist of what that prequel manga was supposedly about. And apparently Godzilla was like, they didn't go into where he came from, but they just explained that he was like the ultimate form of evolution, whatever the hell that means.
And you know what? The way it's presented in the movie, that was not the problem with it at all. Like where Godzilla came from and what he was not what he was about, because I thought they nailed that pretty much. Like all the ideas around him were really good, and I thought that clearly the people who wrote this understand Godzilla. Like that wasn't really the issue at all, which is good. I saw a lot of people going like, "Oh, this is the new 98," or this is just it's a further bastardization of this character that gets us away from it. I don't think so. I just think it's misguided in how it was put together. Unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up 98, because if you want a good example of how you animate Godzilla, you watch the 98 spin-off series. I think it's interesting that their answer to the question of how do you do an animated Godzilla is to avoid animating Godzilla whenever possible.
Very, very little, true.
Interesting.
He does very little actual moving.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that seems to be Toho's whole tact with him now, is just to make him like this big, stoic thing that like is locked in this one kind of look, and I can see why. Like I get the idea of it, but I just don't think it looks cool always.
Well, and
that's the only.
And here's
issue.
the thing: it also feels, if you take it not as a movie, but as Bill described it, the first 3 episodes of an anime, doesn't it feel kind of derivative of like Attack on Titan?
Especially with the main character. Especially with the main character Haruo.
You guys are probably going to notice that a lot more than me. I can see that with the main character, though. He definitely was a massive misstep, I think.
Especially I felt near the end. You replaced the fucking
misstep. I don't know if I even agree with what I just said.
You replaced the fucking like grappling hook things from Attack on Titan with those mechs at the end of this movie, and it's
oh my god, you're right.
Yeah,
it's basically the same premise.
I definitely didn't notice that
And also a very similar storytelling tact, I thought.
Sure.
Yeah, but at least with Eren Yeager, he had an entire supporting cast of people that had different levels of relationships with him, and he actually had people that he had genuine familial bonds with. Here, one of the biggest issues in getting having a connection to Haruo Sakaki is that he has no one really around him that outside of Metphis. And even then, Metphis is still just
they
as
have
emotionally
a bizarre
distant
relationship, and it doesn't, and you can't relate to it at all. Yeah.
In a way, it's somewhat intriguing, but it's not relatable. And the
if
stuff with
he had
him
other relationships, it wouldn't be so weird.
Right.
And then the girl wouldn't be so weird because that's weird too.
What was the thing with the girl?
Okay, the thing with the girl. This was something
his sister.
No.
No, she also
she also had her grandfather aboard that ark that was planning on going on that suicidal expedition to that dangerous planet. So both her grandfather and Haruo's grandfather died aboard that same ship that exploded, and she herself is wondering whether or not it was a conspiracy, just like Haruo.
Okay. See, they didn't make that clear enough. That's why I thought maybe that they were supposed to be siblings, because she has that line where she mentions grandfather, but she doesn't say my grandfather. She just says grandfather, and I'm like, wait, are they? How is this coming in on the third act? Like what?
Right.
There's definitely way too much.
And she also mentioned, I've been wanting to talk to you. And it's like she's been waiting this moment to talk to her ever since she first heard his voice across the intercom at the beginning, at the introduction of the movie.
There's really only 3 other characters in the movie after the grandfather dies at the beginning that he seems to have some sort of a connection to. So there's the other commander who dies, and then there's
who looks virtually identical to every blonde character in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of the characters looked identical to each other. That was a problem.
Then there's the alien guy who's kind of shady at the end, who's actually, I think, probably the most interesting. And then there's
he's one of the fucking dudes from the third planet from the black hole. They were all part of that fucking.
Dude, I had no idea those dark skinned characters were aliens when I first saw the movie in Japanese.
Yeah.
And now
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the other alien, the fucking religious guy who has...
the religious guys. Okay, yeah.
The one
by the way,
who says every planet has had their own Godzilla, and I'm like, yeah, but do you mean Godzilla himself or a monster? Because it seems like he implies because he says oh, good to see you again, King of Destruction. Do you mean from this planet, or are there other Godzillas out there?
he was on Earth. You got to remember.
That's why it's vague.
It's only been 20 something years for them. You got to remember. There's kind of a Planet of the Apes thing going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff is just too vague, because too much of it is exposition and backstory that you kind of tune out of it eventually.
No, I will say that the exposition at the very beginning was almost good enough to be its own movie.
I was into it at first, definitely, but I think there's too much of it. You just, at a certain point, you get exhausted and you're like, I need some kind of breather. And there just isn't, there's no breathing room in this movie. To get into the characters, to get into the world. It's constantly... I feel tearing out the foundation from under us.
I feel like there was breathing room, but anytime there was, it was just focused on Haruo constantly reminding us how much he hates Godzilla and how much he loves the Earth and how much he's fighting for humanity.
They don't use it to make you relate to the characters more or get the characters to relate to each other more, which is really what you should be doing with that time, so they can talk to each other for 2 minutes. And I guess because they've been on the spaceship for so long together that they're sick of talking to each other. And if they had emphasized that would have been funny and interesting. But that would have given them personalities and stuff. But they don't use the breathing room for that kind of stuff.
They definitely should have done a better job of making it clear that one guy was an alien, though, like you were saying, because because the other guy, it's okay, all of those aliens kind of look alike and they dress in a certain way and they have this crazy religion they're always talking about, so you can always tell them apart. But then you find out
the Exilians, right?
But on the other end of the spectrum, it's wait, so that guy is an alien, and the only way I'm supposed to be able to notice that is that he's black and everyone else isn't?
And he has poorly modeled hair. He had poorly modeled hair and beards.
Yeah, you notice the weird hair growing out of the eyebrows.
He was one of my favorite characters, though, without a doubt.
What's also really messed up, this is potentially fucked up, but this is a thing, a scary coincidence that I realized. And I know this is probably just a coincidence. I'm not going to say this movie's racist, but considering the fact that these... Considering the fact that they turned the space apes into black people.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. Japan.
That's true.
Good old Japan, just not knowing what you're doing. Just
yeah, I don't know why in animation you're gonna decide to do that kind of thing. Like if this had been a live action movie, I could have seen that because Toho is not fucking Warner Brothers. So if they're gonna be like, well, our aliens are gonna be people that look a little weird, then I would have been like, all right, fine, as long as the story's good. And with some of the ideas in this, that probably could have been a really interesting direction. But in animation, fuck yeah, make them actual apes, and then make the Exilians more machine-like or a little grayer in the face.
Make them look more like Exilians.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make a movie
of them though? That they were all worshiping, their computer god, because that's basically what they were doing in Astro Monster.
How do you make this movie that's like borrowing like some elements from the past lore, but you don't incorporate any of the visual cues of any of that shit? Because all of the design work in this I thought was super fucking generic.
That's a big problem with it. Yeah, clearly these people understand and like Godzilla and have good ideas for Godzilla, but they're just fucking held back by this really generic looking design, and a lot of the execution of the story also comes off as generic, not just because of the design.
Do you think it's because they rushed this thing into fucking production? I mean, it was like right after Shin came out.
Didn't help. But I feel like somebody on this wanted it to look like this and not like Godzilla. And I feel like maybe, I don't know if the scriptwriter wasn't on board with that or whatever, but I feel like there's two here, I think.
I want to say you're on the right path, Bill, because I've mentioned this in my review many times. I kept comparing the animation to this movie to Knights of Sidonia, and the aesthetic qualities of that series matches this movie a lot, in that there's a lot of whites, a lot of grays, a lot of sterile-looking environments, a lot of painted-on textures, a lot of this in matching. Everyone's wearing matching uniforms. It feels very much like that. And I'm wondering if that's maybe not just an artistic decision, but maybe more like a cost-cutting decision.
It's probably that, but it could also just be somebody on this either worked on that and it's just like, well, that's what space looks like to me. Or maybe they love that kind of stuff and they're not into Godzilla. So they're like, I'm getting the space thing, we're doing that. And then the Godzilla guy's like, but Godzilla, well, you could put that in your dumb story. And my design will be really.
I would be interested to know if there's any overlap between the people who worked on this and the people who worked on that show, because Knights of Sidonia also a thing that's connected to Netflix. So it's possible that maybe there was some people who worked on that also worked on this, and just some similar design aesthetic going on. I don't know.
It seems likely to me. But I definitely didn't particularly care for it. It's like I said, it's just one of the many things that you just go, this is holding this back. Why did they do this? Why?
I did want to bring this up earlier because I know we might be moving away from the alien stuff, but you mentioned before how
super casual discussion. You bring up whatever the fuck you want.
By the way, spoilers.
I'm gonna call this spoiler analysis. So I always put it in the title. Don't worry.
Okay, so the thing that I want to bring up was, you mentioned how there's very little downtime, there's very little proper use of downtime where characters just talk to each other so we can get a feel as to who they are.
Not even that they don't talk to each other, but they talk to each other about real things, not like, do you know how we can destroy Godzilla? And it's like, and I get that they're obsessed with that, but what do they do? What do they do in their,
totally.
We got a little more exploration of that, because I know that they can't probably do much, but I want to know what they do. I know some of them commit suicide and stare at pictures of the Earth. That's interesting. I wish they would have fleshed that out a little bit, and we could have lived with those people for a few more minutes if we're going to spend so much time on the spaceship.
Yeah, and then maybe actually, once we get to Earth, give me a little more Godzilla than you actually gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, as we find out at the end, we didn't even spend the majority of these we didn't even really spend the majority of these Godzilla scenes fighting
I'm
Godzilla.
so conflicted about that fake out at the end. I don't know how I feel about it.
We were following
Basically,
Minya.
Yeah,
we were
this movie
following
should be
Minya
called
the whole time.
This movie really should be called Minya, Planet of Monsters,
Yeah.
because Godzilla proper doesn't show up until the very end.
Right.
And that is the best scene in the movie. That's like
Yes.
an atomic breath sequence from Shin, but for this movie, like that is the fucking moment.
That was because it reminded me of when they released that teaser for 2014, and we all got really excited because we're like, oh my god, this is Godzilla, because that kind of approach to the character, that kind of angle, it just emphasizes what he's about, and all the dialogue in that scene, and the fact that everybody just dies and gets crushed.
And it harkens back to so many great, Godzilla entrances of the past, like when he comes out of the ground in Mothra, or the coming out of the volcano twice during the Heisei era. Like that
reveal definitely and it's surprising. Like I didn't see that coming. I don't know if you guys thought that we would get more than one Godzilla.
I thought it was going to happen actually, because
really,
he didn't look as big. He didn't look as big as I knew he was supposed to be in the movie.
I see. I wondered about that
scale,
myself.
The scaling, the cinematography didn't allow me to realize that he was 300 meters tall. So when everyone learned how tall the final Godzilla was, everyone was bitching and whining on Facebook, and I kept reminding everyone, dude, you're not gonna notice how big he is in the actual movie.
But if you really wondered about it, you probably would have been able to peg that, because especially in comparison to all the mountains and stuff that haven't changed in the thousands of years.
Yeah, it helps that he's not set in an actual the fight isn't set in a city, because then you would notice how the scale is kind of ridiculous. But the fact that it's just out in the wilderness, it's kind of hard to tell. Although I will say that they did do a good job convincing me that the real Godzilla who pops out at the end was definitely bigger than the one they just killed.
Sure. I mean, he comes up under the whole fucking army.
I just want to cut Jeff Goldblum into that scene, saying that's definitely bigger than the last one.
Well, his design was also different too. Slightly. I wish he looked more different, to be honest, than the one that they killed. Because his face is definitely different. He looks more angular and meaner.
He's got a beard now.
Yeah, he has some kind of weird shit around his bottom.
He's got that mean goatee going on.
Yeah, but different spines, I think, would have done something.
I've noticed he's got deeper crevices between the spines.
Okay, maybe I just didn't notice that, but I feel like there are so many different shapes for Godzilla spines. If you're gonna do more than one Godzilla, especially if one has evolved, make them different.
I wish the eyes.
Do you guys think that we'll get oh, sorry, go ahead.
I wish that the eyes were a little bigger. I don't need super huge 70s Frogzilla eyes, but at the same time they have to go into an extreme close up whenever they want you to see his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they always look really bizarre. Everybody makes it oh, he looks stoned. Stoned. He looks dead. He looks.
I did notice that when you see the final Godzilla, you do see his eyes more so than the Godzilla that we see in the majority of the movie.
He looks a little more pissed when we see him at the end. He doesn't look happy. No.
I did notice he even actually you can see him shifting his eyes when he's focusing on a new target.
Yeah.
Also, clearly he's grown in the 20,000 years since the humans left the Earth.
Yeah, I think that was the idea.
Yeah.
So so apparently the idea seems to be that Mechagodzilla is something that they had already built before they left the planet. So in the sequel, they're obviously just going to be waking up Mechagodzilla. But Mechagodzilla is going to be way tinier than this version of Godzilla. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Because at the time, they would have built it to fight the size that he was then, presumably. Well, in the sequel, if there's a 300-meter tall Mechagodzilla, then that just makes no fucking sense.
Well, we know that the version built didn't work, or whatever the hell happened. So, what if either they make it bigger, or maybe that's what's going on during the movie, in the background, or what if it did activate and it's been self-sufficient for 20,000 years, and it's a rival to Godzilla?
You got a Kiyu situation where it's alive.
Yeah, that's the trailer that I saw. Not the trailer, the poster that we saw. That seems to sort of be what they're doing.
Do you think we might get some version of Mothra in this universe? Because I kind of felt like they were kind of going for an Infinite Islander thing with that whole post credits.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, thanks for telling me about that because it wasn't what I expected. I thought it would be like Mechagodzilla eyes lighting up or something.
Funny enough, that is the second post-credit sequence we got in Japan, where it's just a zoom out of a giant version of the teaser poster that we got.
No, that's dumb.
Yeah.
It's
wait, what?
The screen.
I was happy that it was like different.
The screen zooms out, and we get a bigger version, a widescreen version of the teaser poster for the next movie.
So that post-credit scene with the girl was not even in the original Japanese version?
We see that I said we have a second post-credit sequence. So after we see the girl, the native girl, then we get the poster of the next movie with Mechagodzilla like laying down. Because of the poster, its title itself, which a lot of people have called it like mobile breeder growth city final battle thingamabob.
Breeder. Oh my god, he's gonna be fucking making eggs and shit.
I'm assuming that this
now
means
that's
that
a porn
maybe
that I never knew I wanted to watch.
Now maybe this tells me that maybe there's going to be a city inside of Mechagodzilla. I don't know, or maybe there's a city
he's taken over a city,
or there's a city built around Mechagodzilla.
Mechagodzilla's fucking Metroplex from Transformers.
That seems to be the idea, and given how big Godzilla is, that would probably be necessary.
What's the actual translation of the Japanese title for the sequel?
Let's see. I'm going to go by the kanji one by one. So the first pair of kanji is kesen, which means like decisive battle or ultimate battle or final battle. There's many different translations. There's kido, which definitely means mobile. And then zoshoku. Zoshoku is growth, I think, in a very general sense. And toshi is city.
So
it's like final battle,
ultimate battle,
city,
mobile,
ultimate battle, mobile thingy.
Like ultimate battle, or final battle, or decisive battle, mobile growth city.
So they're describing a city.
What?
What a bizarre title. So because you have to break down like what they're describing. Like they're describing. Is it a battle inside the city? Is the city a battle in and of itself? Oh my!
For whatever reason, Wikipedia puts a possible translation, which is the city mechanized for the final battle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
See that would seem to line up with our theory then that Mechagodzilla has like taken over a city and is using it as like a base, and it's like part of him.
But the thing is, in the beginning of the movie,
because that actually makes sense, because if you use mobile, like in the sense of like mobilizing, like, you know,
yeah, or like
kind
Gundam.
of the same reason that like Mobile Suit Gundam, it's because
it's the same kanji.
Yeah.
So Toho's official English title would be Beneath the Planet of the Monsters.
Oh, that's so much better. Yeah.
Oh my god, you're so right, considering that the teaser.
Yeah.
I mean, not the teaser, the end credits. Yeah.
Right.
The problem is they're gonna have to be a lot more creative fighting this Godzilla. They're gonna have to try shooting it with a black hole or some shit, because these fucking little tanks shooting it from the side. They're gonna do shit.
Metal and shit.
I'm assuming Mechagodzilla himself is just the same size as the 50-meter Godzilla that initially appeared 20,000 years prior.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what kind of a fucking fight's that going to be?
Right, well, like I said, I'm
gonna kick you in the shin, Godzilla.
Either they'll be rebuilding him in the next movie, or something will have happened in the 20,000 years, and he will have like self-activated, and he will have become a city or whatever by the time we catch up with him.
It'd be like a fight between like Caesar from King Kong. It'd be like a fight between King Kong and like the most valuable primate. Like that's the scale we're looking at here.
I love that though. That's the crossover we've been waiting for. Godzilla and Kong is happening. It's done. My life is complete. Now I'm just waiting for Kong versus MVP.
Kong v MVP. KV MVP.
MVP. Yes. The ultimate battle.
Godzilla versus the most Godzilla Kong versus the most valuable player.
The most valuable
No,
primate. You've never watched the most valuable primate?
Dude.
It's so good. He plays hockey. It's brilliant.
Maybe I should have gone for Dunstan checks in, then it would have been more clear.
Yeah, but MVP, he's a fucking warrior, man. He's a fucking ice hockey player. He can fuck up Happy Gilmore. What's fucking Dunstan? Dunstan checks in. He's a fucking orangutan. He's hanging up in trees. He's eating fruit. He's not a chimp. Chimps are fucking blood hungry, man.
We need the gritty reboot where MVP has a battle to the death against fucking Airbud.
Why can't MVP fight Dunstan checks in? Because I feel like that's Gyra versus Sonda right there. Dunstan would be Sonda, and then fucking MVP would be Gyra. You know, MVP's out there like winning games and shit, like getting pussy. Dunstan's all reserved in his fucking hotel. He's checking in and shit. And then there's something they have to fight, you know?
Checking in and shit.
They have to have a final decisive battle in a mobile growth city. Anyway.
Nice.
So since we're talking about the post-credit scene, I want to go back. We're gonna go back. Don't worry. But
I forgot to bring up what I originally wanted to say.
Well, hang on. I just want to say I liked that idea that there are still people there and that they're eking out some kind of existence. I'm kind of hoping we get like a Godzilla Cataclysm thing, and they're going to be worshiping Godzilla and maybe some of the other monsters from the past. Because the idea seems to be that all the other monsters that are mentioned for 2 seconds at the beginning are all dead now. Godzilla killed them all. That's the idea I got. Did you guys get? Because I'm pretty sure one of the characters mentions that he just blew through them all, and that was the reason why they knew nothing they could do could kill him. Because what if they couldn't stop the other monsters? You know, how are they going to stop him? Which I really like that idea. That's fucking great. I mean, it's Final Wars, but we're actually scared of Godzilla, and Godzilla's son doesn't show up at the end and go, "Hey guys, don't fight. It's all fine. We're all happy and friends now." In this one, they kill Godzilla's son, and he's pissed. And I like that. I like all of that.
You think there could be more Godzilla Juniors running around in this world?
I was going to ask you guys that before. Do you want to see more Godzillas? I think why not? Maybe in the third one. Maybe in the third one you can just have like a few of them as almost like foot soldiers. Because
based on what we know so far about this universe, it seems unlikely to me that he would have gone 20,000 years and only spawned one other being of his same type. You know what I mean? You've got the fucking Rain of Fire motherfuckers flying around. But
it is a little Rain of Fiery, isn't it, this whole thing? But, they left Earth.
Listen, there's a lot of, we'll be generous and call it homage going on here.
I would like to see a Godzilla. I guess
Battlestar
that's
Godzilla.
what Cataclysm was. Cataclysm was kind of Rain of Fire with Godzilla, but they didn't really capitalize that enough. But yeah, no, I would definitely be at this point. One of the things they managed to succeed on is they kind of sold me on this version of Godzilla. Very surprisingly, at least they got me to be like, okay, you're getting all the ideas across and all the themes right and everything else. So I can't accept this weird metal plant electromagnetic Godzilla.
See, I can't even say that they did that. I don't think they sold me on Godzilla, and the problem is, I don't think they really tried to sell me on Godzilla.
No, they didn't.
He's barely in the movie. He has no personality, which Shin didn't either. But at least Shin was in the movie.
And Shin had other stuff going on with the political commentary.
Right.
Exactly. And listen, I hate to say anything positive about Shin, but it did do those things. And
at least, he may have no personality and walks in a straight line, but at least he's, causing havoc and panic as he's walking in a straight line.
Well, they did stuff with that. That's not really...
They took the time to actually animate him walking in a straight line. I actually saw his legs move. That was nice.
There was one shot where we saw Godzilla's legs move in this, and I remembered it vividly, because I was like, oh shit, his foot just came down.
And then this is probably a nitpick, but they couldn't have come up with some kind of a new creative plant Godzilla roar for this. Instead, they were just they were like,
I want to bring something up right quick that's really, really grinding my gears.
Oh shit!
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned on Facebook, like, you know what they did with the fucking Ents in Lord of the Rings, where they have like those sounds that they make, and it just sounds like trees, like when wind goes through trees, and they make like all the weird like creaky noises. Like, do that. If he's supposed to be a plant, fucking go all out with it. You know, don't just be like, hey, this creature's made of plant stuff and shouldn't actually have vocal cords, but let's just use whatever's in the bank from the last one we made.
I never mind that. I like hearing the old roars. It establishes it more so as Godzilla to me. I would have liked to hear something original as well, but that's not a problem for me. I would have been fine with either or. I wanted to go back to
look what Legendary did. They brought a great spin to their Godzilla roar.
That is really like over the years I've gone like Legendary did like a really good job of just updating that whole character to the modern day from an aesthetic point of view. Like they really emphasized everything that needed to be emphasized. Everything else we've said about that movie in the past aside, that side of it was really strong. And you know, everything else has been, well, what else can we do with Godzilla? What's our spin on it? And like I said, because all the themes and everything and the ideas were so interesting, I was definitely sold on everything a lot more than I expected it to be. But I really don't like the design. It's more that than anything else. It's not even that like, oh, it lacks personality and it lacks like any of the classic like dinosaur-y cool Godzilla features. Whatever. It just looks unfinished. You know, like it looks like a model that you would see with the quality of the animation. It looks like the layer of skin underneath a finished design for a character. Maybe that was the intention, but it looks almost like hardened musculature, you know, with bones underneath. And it's hard to like distinguish not even just like individual features, but it's just hard to really like get excited about it, especially in this animation style where it just looks like, okay, we're watching the pre-roll. When are they going to put the next layer of animation over it?
Yeah, exactly. It felt like you remember? Have you seen on the Blu-ray for 2014 the like previs shit
that
they
is
do?
what I was thinking of as well. Yeah, like watching Godzilla walk around, and Gareth Edwards was talking about making sure it looked good from every angle, and I feel like they didn't think about that. They were like, well, they did like 3 walk cycles, and they were like, done. It looks good, you know?
Yeah,
because it does kind of look different, and there's 2 Godzillas in this that are, the characters discuss them looking different and being completely different, but I feel like every time we saw the one that we spent most of the movie with, it looked different from every other angle. So by the time we got the one at the end, I'm like, okay, it's shaped a little differently and it's bigger, but I can't really tell because it's so undefined.
yeah. It's just so because my entire life I've been saying, hey, wouldn't a Godzilla anime be cool? But I always wanted something more in the vein of like, the way like a Big O or a Gundam Wing looks. Instead, they went with fucking SD Gundam Force, and now I've got this fucking spasmic, just like keyframes missing.
That's the thing I hate to death about when it comes to Japanese CG animation. For whatever whatever ungodly reason, they so badly want to mimic the look and feel of 2D animation, which does feature missing keyframes in order to, because that's always been like a cost-cutting procedure ever since the beginning of anime, where it's like the key is to have less frames of animation per second. And so I guess for whatever reason, they want to keep that style in CG form, but to me, it never works.
No, well, you can hide it better in 2D for some reason. I don't know what the reasoning is, but there's something about that where it doesn't come across as weird.
It's just hard to take that style and mimic it in CG. Especially when like David said before, I feel like this is just a little rushed as well. Like there isn't enough time to make those things work.
It's moving almost like in It when he's fucking with the projector and it's like flickering, like that's almost what it looks like when they're moving sometimes, because it's just like this.
I want to say this was most
stuttery motion.
I want to say this was probably a conscious decision, a fully intentional decision, because that was all over Knights of Sidonia's art style. In fact, when you guys first made that initial video and Dylan read off my prediction on Facebook, that's what it was, because I knew this was going to be the Knights of Sidonia people, and they were all over that aesthetic.
Right. It definitely played out that way, to be sure, and for worse ultimately. And I'm sure that there are people who like this, and there are probably people who, watch that and maybe have a casual interest in Godzilla, and this is like their fucking jam. So,
and
it's
definitely that's definitely the case. There are people who genuinely really, really enjoyed this movie, and
I definitely don't want people to think that I hate this, because I really don't. Like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I definitely think it's okay to somewhat good, but it's really, really held back by so much bullshit. That's the real rub here.
Yeah.
It's not horrible, it's offensively bad. It's fucking held back and drags a lot.
It really makes me worried about the fucking CG Ultraman manga movie that we're getting now, and the fucking Ninja Batman.
And the Spider-Man movie, because that Sony decided to jump on that stuttery bandwagon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. All of those projects.
I would say that Spider-Man movie looks a lot better than everything else we just mentioned.
They all seem to be doing the same thing, and CG animation has come a long way since the 90s. Like, there's no excuse. In a world where Code Lyoko already exists, there's no reason you should make your movie. There's no reason you should make your movie look like Reboot. We're moving backwards.
But it's a stylistic decision. No, stop it.
It's like, I think it's like the 3D thing in
institutionalized laziness.
It goes in cycles. People think this kind of thing is popular because one thing made money with it, and it is easier, and it's a cheap way to either make money or save money. So it's a stylistic choice based on a financial decision. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it largely doesn't. But there are one or two moments that look cool, like the end. I think when they come down to Earth for the first time, I thought that was pretty cool.
What do you think of the moments where they would use the electronic device sci-fi technology to light up the room, either with greens and reds and blues?
It just all looked like every other science fiction thing we've had in the past few years.
Right,
nothing really stood out about it. I'm trying to think.
I was just waiting for James Franco's pod to catch on fire. I thought I was in a different movie.
It looked a lot like Dead Space. And Dead Space you can even criticize for being a little too derivative of not just the horror science fiction movies it's pulling stuff from, but the games of the time. But they definitely did their own thing with it, and that's why that game works. I feel like this had the potential to definitely do its own thing with it, because it's set in this giant monster Godzilla kaiju universe. But they really bury all that.
Except there's no kaiju.
Well, they bury all that to focus on the sci-fi shit that. And I feel like I've been saying this the whole time, but they focus on the stuff that is popular nowadays, much to the detriment of the really good Godzilla story that's buried in here. And it's
they're not doing it. But I feel like they're not even imitating the best sci-fi that they could be imitating. This doesn't feel like Godzilla mixed with Star Wars, or Godzilla mixed with Blade Runner or some shit. This feels like Godzilla by way of Titan AE or something.
Ooh.
It's just
Appleseed,
blech.
All that, which again people like, but it's just it doesn't interest me, and I just don't think it matches this aesthetic. I think what more people would have liked, and it wouldn't have produced this massive and it's not even really polarizing. It's largely negative with some people who really, really like it. And then there's people like me, and I know you guys seem to be swinging more negative, even though you don't hate it. But we kind of fall in between. And I feel like if they would have just gone, all right, even if we're gonna do the CG animation, let's just update the look of the Exilians and the look of the people from the planet from the third planet from the black hole. and do all that kind of stuff and try to make it like what will make it look like that aesthetic, because the kind of story that we're telling has not really been done in the Godzilla universe before, and that's what's going to make this unique and make it cutting edge and modern and like some other science fiction animes that have been made. But aesthetically, we should really be trying to take the foundations of the Godzilla lore we're already playing with and do new stuff with it. But they didn't want to do
I made a fucking better redesign of the Exilians on a fucking free Flash program once than what they came up with.
Your idea for that story you had is what this should have been.
Yeah, they kind of made half of my idea, and the rest of it was like, wait, what are you doing? That's a terrible idea. Stop. Go back. Rewind.
I didn't even feel like anything in this was really, really terrible outside of some of the animation. And
again,
even those moments were few and far between to me. Like, I can't even say that just because I don't like the designs that it's terrible. You know, like it's just not for me, and I just think that the rest of it is just really bleh.
Another thing that I've seen criticized a lot, besides the animation, is the score. Now, I can't criticize the score because I don't really remember it.
I actually kind of like the title music. I was surprised, even though it's super generic. But it was like, oh, Godzilla.
Might be a criticism in and of itself. Wasn't it the guy who did like Space Godzilla? I remember a bunch of people being like super hyped.
Godzilla 2000.
Yeah, I remember a bunch of people being like really hyped that they got the Space Godzilla.
Because that's why I don't like that score, because it's super generic. It sounds like every
and I was like,
ever.
I was like,
why are Trump? I was gonna say a lot of trumpets blaring in
That was the best example of how two people can take the same news so completely wrong. Because like half of the world was like, yes, they got the guy who did Space Godzilla, and at the same time I was like, oh god, no, they got the guy who did Space Godzilla.
The one guy that wasn't Akira Ifukube.
And then it turned out I was right now, because apparently everybody hates this score, and I just thought it was forgettable.
That does enough to make me hate it, you know?
Right.
I just think that
even with my qualms with the animation, it's still passable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll give them some credit. I think there was some nice like shading stuff being done, you know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. If only it moved better, and maybe had a little bit more texture, then I think it could have looked really good.
And to talk about the action sequences, I liked the fights with Godzilla. I know you guys said they were very derivative of the fights with the Titans. You know, I'm not super familiar with all that, so I didn't notice that. But you know, we haven't seen a whole lot of like people in little tiny like
space scooters.
Yeah, like it almost felt like the attack on the Death Star, but on Godzilla, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, here's a major problem, and this is something I've talked about before with other Japanese properties, and I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this, Bill. Did you understand any of the exposition that they were throwing around about like the?
Oh, I don't think this was anything like Shin or like Evangelion. This is, if anything, I just think it's like what we were saying before. There's so much of it that you just tune out. That's not the problem with Shin and with Evangelion. It's that it's fucking gobbledygook. And it's filled with all these big words that clearly Anno looked up and everything, but he's not throwing them in there for you to understand. He's throwing them in there to sound cool, you know? And at a certain point, you're just like, I'm just going to tune out now, because it's just going to be 5 minutes of people throwing this bullshit around. It didn't feel like that to me. It felt like there were to build the world. I just wasn't always interested.
It's weird because it's like like Star Trek, because the one thing that Star Trek's always been really good at is like having this like weird techno babble with all these big words, but like somehow you still follow it and you still understand what they're talking about. I feel like Japan's always trying to do that and just failing.
Had this not been a super generic universe, this probably would have done that well. But because the universe that they ended up creating around the kaiju stuff wasn't all that interesting, at least to me, I just didn't care about a lot of that. But
were you at all pissed were you at all pissed that they advertised this movie as being like, hey, we got Orga and we got Dogora and we got all these monsters?
No, Andres prepared me for that. I
yeah,
had no
I was
expectation for that whatsoever.
in a way, I was kind of like smiling, thinking how disappointed everyone was going to be when they see this movie, expecting it to be a planet full of monsters.
Yeah, no, I
and
definitely
that all the monsters.
That would be like if they had advertised. That would be like if they had advertised Legendary Godzilla from 2014 as being like, it's in World War II, and then it's just over in the credits and we're in the present day, and you're like,
it was set in the 50s, like it was all set around him being bombed.
I mean, I guess part of it was World War II. Thanks, movie.
Yeah. No, the funny thing is they never promoted the monsters in the movie. You would have to people would have to look up see what kind of copyrighted characters are included in the project. It's never something that the monsters were never advertised in the forefront. That was just something that a bunch of us Godzilla fans latched onto and said, "Holy shit, this monster's gonna be in the movie."
Yeah, and they really just did it so they could call him the King of the Monsters. That was really it. Because if there had only been another Godzilla and the dragon things, whose names I will never be able to remember, the Skevrum?
Servum. Just imagine, what you do. You serve the people. You serve them ice cream. You serve them ice cream, Bill. Just remember that.
I don't remember it that way. It's gonna hurt me in my feelings.
Fine then. You serve them in a dance battle. Go.
I don't want to dance. You guys are making me do things I don't want to do.
You're Batman. You like Batman. You serve him justice.
He likes Batman. He doesn't want to be Batman though.
No, I don't want to be Batman. That sounds hard. I have to stay up late and fucking beat up people in alleys. Like, God, can't you just tell me where the drugs are so I can fucking go home? I want to watch I want to watch Dragon Ball Super. My God. Could you imagine Batman? He just watches Dragon Ball Super all day because he can't do anything else. He's not going to board meetings. He's watching Dragon Ball Super in board meetings.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where Batman learned to fight.
Yep, Goku.
Robin, my instant transmission isn't working.
What?
Give me your energy, Robin.
I just love how tired.
Can you imagine Batman? Can you imagine Batman going into a fight with Clayface and trying to do a fucking Kamehameha?
But it doesn't work. But it's like that meme I shared. It's Clayface is like, I didn't want to fuck with him, so I just fucking bowed out. I didn't want to risk it. Like you.
That though, the boxer, yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I love that meme. That's brilliant.
And you know what? Pretty wise.
Yeah, God forbid, you never know. You end up like fucking, I don't know, that submarine.
I mean, listen, if anybody ever raises their arms over their heads and yells, "Share your energy with me," I'm getting the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? That's
you don't want to take them out while they're building the energy. That's every fucking bad guy's mistake. Is they just usually somebody will try to distract them, and then when they realize what's going on, they'll get really cocky about it because they still don't think it's gonna work. It's in Dragon Ball anyway. There was one other thing I wanted to really bring up, just to go back to the start, and we were kind of already back there anyway. I was into the main character initially. I thought the way they introduced him was creative. I kind of like that we just start cold open. We're not like, many years ago, the monsters, they destroyed everything. That would have been more generic.
He is kind of a trope within anime, though.
Yeah, that's the big problem with him, is that after that interesting opening, they don't do anything with him outside of the fucking super cliched, oh, my family is dead, I have to get revenge, blah, 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 I'm a dark-haired anime lead, the girl likes
I gotta get revenge on the thing.
This is Godzilla, and because we've seen that trope so many fucking times, ooh, Godzilla, that dastardly devil.
Funny enough, we saw this done better in Half Century War.
Yes.
Oh, way better. I did want to give Toho a little credit though. I don't know if they intended to name the main character after Haru Nakajima, but that was the way I took it. Oh
yeah, I thought the same as well.
I didn't think about that, but that's
kudos.
I hope so.
Kudos on that.
But fuck, I was building to something.
You You were saying you liked him to start out with, but
I did.
then
I genuinely did. But at a certain point... Oh, and the other thing I was going to say was to get back to the Godzilla trope of, oh, I hate him because he killed my family. At first I was like, oh, wow, they're not doing this the same way that they've done with all the other characters in the past. Like, I like, especially because of the way they got into the backstory. Like, you know, he doesn't constantly go... I mean, he does later, and that's the part he constantly goes on reminding us of why he hates Godzilla. But when we see it, he's not going like, and then Godzilla stepped on my parents. Like, it's not like that bit from GMK, where he's got the voiceover and the flashback. Like, we just see the visual of it. So I liked all that. But there's nothing more to him than that, you know? He seems to have, like, some morals, some principles that he's going to stick by, but he doesn't seem to care about... We don't really see him care about individual people in the moment. He cares about the abstracts of, oh, killing the elderly is wrong. But in the moment, we don't see him, like, save anybody, or did we? When they're fighting the monsters, did he, like, actively go out of his way to help someone, or...
I think his goal, I'm not sure how much of his goal is even about wanting to kill Godzilla and how much of it is wanting to get the Earth back, because it seems to be kind of both at the same time, simultaneously.
I like that idea, though. I kind of liked his outrage at, oh, Godzilla took the Earth from us. Like, that's I mean, it's super... It's fucking aggro of a way to look at it, but
it's like, well, how is his attitude different from every other person who is pissed off that Godzilla took their planet?
Yeah, because he's doing something about it, though.
Yeah.
That's it plays into the theme that they were trying to convey with Metvi saying, like, devotion. It's like you have a much stronger resolve and a much greater devotion to your cause, your creed.
Him over time. That was the problem. Like, I just stopped liking him.
Do you think the idea of having to, like, destroy an organ on Godzilla's body, like, it turns out to be the dorsal fin, but they don't know what it is when they're on the ship, so they just say, like, organ, we must destroy his organ that causes the energy field.
I like that too, because I was like, oh god, are they going to do the second brain thing again? And I kind of like it as the dorsal fin, because if you're a Godzilla fan, you can call that.
Do you think it could have been like a veiled reference to the whole, like, second brain plot for Mechagodzilla 2?
Okay, I guess the idea of it, maybe they watched that and they said, oh, we can do something like that. I think it's them watching Godzilla movies for 60 years going, oh, well, the spines always light up before he does anything, so that'll be the source of his power. So I was like, okay, if you're a Godzilla fan, you can call that. I kind of like that. So that's all fine. And I liked fucking Haro slamming in...
Haruo.
I'm sorry, I'm tired and I stuttered. Haruo. He fucking slams into fucking Godzilla's dorsal fin, and he's just like, fire everything. He should be dead. I don't know how he's not. But, because they fire everything at him, and then all the other mechs, like, attached to Godzilla, and then he's fine. And I'm like, well, what happened? Did he dodge, or what? Did he have a shield? Like, what did he do? But I liked that scene. It was kind of Reigns again. When they bury him with the ice.
I mentioned that in my original review.
King Kong versus Godzilla, where they bury him in the pit and blow him up with explosives.
I don't know if I buy other people taking him seriously, though. Like, they follow this fucking kid into battle, and the problem with this main character, what's his name, Naruto, he's way too... He's just super, like, reckless, and, like, he's just a loose cannon, and he clearly doesn't have very good judgment, and he gets up and he gives, like, this attempt at, like, an Independence Day speech.
He's clearly mentally, like, disturbed, and, you know, sure, he wants to do something, and the fact that he's so proactive is certainly a good reason for him to be a leader, but for everything to ride on him, it feels a little weird, for sure. And at a certain point, you're just like, just have him mellow out. And if you're going to make that his arc, I just think that we need to be doing more with him in the moment than just having him constantly reiterate that he wants the Earth back and that he doesn't agree with the upper brass and everything. Like we said before, this is too much exposition, not enough.
And you know what?
People.
Maybe that was the point. I mean, there's clearly something shady about that Exilian guy. Maybe he set him up to be the leader specifically so that the mission would fail. Maybe we find that out later on.
No, he's all about like, he's fucking like some kind. He's like Laura Santeca in The Force Awakens. You know, he's like some character. He's
No,
all
see,
he's all zen
he
and
presents
everything.
himself. He presents himself that way. But in that last scene where he comes out and he's like giving the speech about like Godzilla, like, oh, we meet again and blah blah blah. I get the sense that there's some malevolent shit going on behind that dude's eyes. It struck me as one of those.
He's an observer.
Because you see this moment all the time in anime where the character who you didn't think was a villain like has a moment where they give like a cool calculated speech while shit's going on all around them, and then you realize, oh shit, it felt very like President Morty from Rick and Morty season 3 to me. You know, I got that kind of a vibe.
It felt to me more like you definitely see moral ambiguity. That's for sure. But it strikes me as more like he's a character obsessed with balance, and he sees Godzilla as the ultimate means of enacting balance. So he's not sure whose side to be on. Should Godzilla be allowed to run over the Earth because humanity fucking sucks? That's his whole point. Look at how terrible these fucking dumb monkeys are that you're so obsessed with saving.
And I think he's specifically setting them up to fail for that reason.
But the question is whether or not he wants Haruo in that position to do that, or if he genuinely thinks, well, if this guy is in charge, they'll have a shot. That's the question. But I think given what we've seen so far, I would love it if they would reveal that he intentionally did it to fuck them over, because that would make sense then. Well, I don't think they will. I think they'll be like, oh no, you're like the heart of the cards and everything, so you can save us.
Because he also didn't seem like shocked at all that there was another Godzilla and that the one that they killed wasn't the big one. He seemed to have already worked that out ahead of time, but he never took the time to tell anybody that. So
I think there's a good chance that that could happen, and I would like to see it. I just don't know if they're going to take advantage of it. I feel like they'll have him. I feel like they'll have him because like we've been saying, like who else does Haruo have? Like fucking.
This reminds me of too many other characters from anime that I've seen this happen with. And to answer the question that you were about to finish, I think Haruo is going to strike up a friendship with the fucking.
That's true. He's got the girl.
Yuko.
He's got the girl.
The one thing I wanted to bring up with Metphies early on was that there was this private conversation that he had with the other dude, with one of the other aliens, and it was during that conversation, in private conversation, the dark-skinned alien, I forgot what his species name was, he mentions to Metphies, it's like, if you guys had succeeded in getting rid of Godzilla, you guys most likely would have tried to have taken over the world by brainwashing all the humans with your religion.
Oh, I loved all that. So good.
And Metphies was like, yeah, well, I bet you would have done the same thing. After all, who would Mechagodzilla have attacked after Godzilla?
Who would Mechagodzilla turned his fangs on? Such a good line. Yeah, I loved all that. Like I said, all those ideas, so good.
When you mentioned before, although that does they made me think, why if both aliens were planning on if both aliens were potentially planning on betraying the humans, why do they want to collaborate them after the Earth was a failed was a pointless endeavor?
That is a good question.
Why are all three of these races sharing a starship? What happened to the other guys' starship? Why did we let aliens on our starship to eat our valuable goods? Like that's a whole lot of backstory.
Yeah, well, it seems a little bit like the aliens came to help us fight Godzilla, and they got stranded on Earth in the interim. So it seems to me like they're all just in this shit together because they're all nomads now. So
right, because both species lost their planets.
All their resources have probably become, like the collective resources.
Which is something I really don't like. I thought it was very redundant to have two species of aliens with the same backstory of losing their planets.
They're different, though. I mean, they're kind of generic. Like, one's warlike,
generic
one's not. Fine.
Yeah, one's violent, one's more philosophical.
Fucking Mechagodzilla, and one of them's the Exilian. So I don't know. I was fine with that. I liked it.
Although, let's see, it was like, what was it called? Like the Exifs is what they're called now.
The Exilons or whatever.
The Exif,
Exifs, yeah.
But the Toho's press release has them as Exilians, so
I mean, that's clearly who they're supposed to be. They worship a computer.
Could
They act exactly
that
like
be
the
a
aliens in Astro Monster.
Would that be a dub thing, you think?
Maybe because Netflix's subtitles also has them as exif.
As do the voice actors, yeah.
But
And then
like,
I
so-
don't think they
so-
say like, oh, it's the no, they do say it's the third planet that fell into a black hole, but they don't, they don't call them
Yeah, they're called like the Bello Tedora,
Yeah,
Bello
yeah,
something. It
exactly.
sounds very Spanish.
yeah.
Belushido, Belusaluda, something like
What
that.
is the official name for that
So
species?
yeah, I think
in
it was Bello
Mechagodzilla?
Saluda.
What are they called though? The ones in Mechagodzilla.
Space apes?
No, what's the official
They
name?
never had a name. They were just the aliens from
They
the black
sh-
hole.
No, the simians. They show up in.
Oh no, I think that's what we call them now.
Yes, but it was kind of made official canon when they brought them back for the Dark Horse Godzilla comics because they had to ask Toho permission. That's what they call them in that. So that's kind of canon to me. So,
Oh, and the new space apes, I hate to call them that, are the Billo Saludo.
See, I feel like if they called them simians, the race shit that we brought up before would have been way worse. So that's probably why they didn't do that.
Gee, Andres, what's wrong with calling them space apes? There's no recent controversy concerning clothes ads putting the word
That would-
monkey
yeah,
on
no,
black
this-
shoulders.
this-
Is there?
Imagine
No,
if
man.
H&M
After all,
has all this-
I'm not accusing them of anything. After all, I'm just the coolest monkey in the jungle.
Imagine H&M has like a huge fucking merchandising deal with Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. Like they have all these T-shirts and hoodies and everything, and they have.
I know nothing of any kind of primates who may or may not hang out on porches. I do not know of what you speak.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's a tense time, I guess.
Yep.
So, does anybody have anything else they want to bring up about this particular movie? Because we can bring up the future in a second and talk about anything we maybe want to see specifically in the next two and directions
I
that
do
they can
before I
maybe
go.
Okay.
Before I was rudely interrupted.
Go ahead, Dave. Is this
And
about
this-
the
You've
movie?
been talking.
Is this about the movie
You
or
haven't been
about...
talking for the past 2 hours. What are
Wait,
you talking about?
is this about the movie or about the future?
It's the movie.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is regarding back to the Roar when we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing a trend on, not just on Toku Legion, but like amongst the fan base.
Mhm.
There are some fans that are like blindly, accepting, something like this.
Hey, okay.
Like-
I do want to say, man, I know where you're going with. I just want to say, man, don't knock someone for liking something, okay?
I'm not. I'm just saying that.
You're not
I'll bring
suggesting
an
that
example.
You're not suggesting that fanboys will like a thing without giving any critical thought to it, are you? That would almost be too much.
I mean, again, like I said, regarding the Roar, there was someone on the group who said, "You know what I really liked about Godzilla and Planet of the Monsters? The Roar." And I commented saying, "It's the same fucking roar as the Millennium Godzilla."
Well, there's a little bit of the old.
And
show
his
roar
response
in it, too.
was, "Wait, what? I've never seen a movie released before I was born."
Did he respond to
He
you?
said, "But still, you gotta admit, it was cool." And my response was, "I would have preferred a new roar."
Mm.
So I was being, Bill about it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
cool. 18 years ago,
I mean,
when we first heard it.
You weren't being me about it because I didn't. I would have been fine anyway. But it's like, oh, it's this cool thing that I've just discovered.
My point
mean-
is that
I
some are like some fans are. And this is even going back with Shin Godzilla. Some fans are incapable of how do I say this without being a total dick about it?
He's trying really hard not to say thought. That's the word he's skating around here.
Critical thought, I guess. I don't know. Like some fans are blindly, calling this a great film and whatnot. I mean, okay, if you like it, it's good. But going so far as to calling it one of the best, 10 out of 10.
You definitely have to wonder, like, why.
I'm I'm just happy to be on the majority on this one. I spent the past 2 years being on the outskirts of people's opinions when it came to Shin. Now I'm finally in the majority on a film again. I like it.
Yeah, although I get the feeling, like, ever since the movie came out on Netflix, is that we've had a wide variety of opinions, much like 2014 and Shin Godzilla. It's like every
hasn't
single
been as
Godzilla
polarizing,
movie.
though, because it's not. It's just not the same kind of release. I just don't think there's as much stake in it. But the reaction has definitely been as like there's been as many people talking about it. But I don't think it's as polarizing. I think more people are definitely on the negative side of the fence on this one. Although I have seen quite a bit of positive as well. So those people are out there. It's just
For the most part, I've seen an overwhelming meh. Just the entire planet Earth went,
oh no, I've
meh.
seen a lot more vehement hatred than anything else. People are not happy about it. But I think we all definitely fall in the middle. So let's talk about the future then. So, regardless of how we felt about this one, we're getting more.
I didn't want to bring this up, in that I just found out that a bunch of like internet like voice actors were involved in the English dub of the movie. Even like, do you guys remember Little Karibo?
Of
No.
course.
Oh, yeah.
He's the creator of. For David, he's the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series.
So an unofficial canon, something that someone would make on Flash.
Yeah, he collaborates with TFS sometimes too, doesn't he?
Yeah, Team 4-Star. So like the Little Karibo had a cameo. He was like one of the random dudes talking about seeing the ocean for the first time when they were going to Earth. And the guy who played...
That was one of the few moments where somebody had a personality. I like that.
And the main character, Haruo, his voice actor was played by dude, what was his name? Chris Niosi, who is known on Newgrounds as Kerbofer. And I remember Kerbofer, I remember seeing some of his like video game parody animations alongside like the days when he and Ego Raptor were slowly getting popular on that site. So yeah, it's really interesting that like people from like the early days, like the YouTube Newgrounds days of voice acting and Flash animation parodies, video game parodies, to see them being official voice actors in Godzilla.
I mean, it's just awesome to see them getting official work because they're definitely talented. I like Little Karibo a lot. So
well, I know recently Team 4-Star got like contracted to do an actual dub for an anime. I don't remember what the anime is called, but they're like the official dub. So it's interesting.
You'd think that people would hire them because clearly they're like good at it and can do it and respect the medium. So it's definitely cool. But
yeah.
What do you guys want to see in the next two? I said before I'd be okay with seeing more Godzillas, but really, I really want to see like a Metroplex Mechagodzilla now. Because that's what it seems to imply. And if we don't get that, I'm going to be kind of bummed. Just like a whole city that Mechagodzilla is either controlling or that is Mechagodzilla. Like maybe like you have like like something shaped like Mechagodzilla in the middle of it, like kind of controlling it. But just all around him is just like cities with fucking missile launchers and laser cannons and like maybe tanks and shit. Maybe separate like Garudas and Moguras and all kinds of shit. Atragons, whatever. Fucking coming out and being used as individual weapons, and he controls them all. I just think that'd be awesome. And that would definitely be a way to counter this Godzilla.
That's great for the sequel, but I think we need to finish this trilogy with the one, the only, the greatest robot, Jet Jaguar. I think Jet Jaguar needs to come in and...
Hell yeah.
Because the great thing about Jet Jaguar is it doesn't matter how fucking big Godzilla is, that motherfucker can grow.
It would be nice if they built a new robot and it was Jet Jaguar, because he seems like if you're going to do the most advanced one, he kind of seems like, after Mechagodzilla, that's kind of the only thing that you can do that you can really justifying it being better in any way or even more advanced at all, like intelligence-wise and programming. Because Mechagodzilla is just a big tank that looks like
They
Godzilla.
made a mistake in Heisei going from Mechagodzilla to Mogura. It's like, you're downgrading.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right, well, the next step from Mechagodzilla is, sentience. All right, Dave, you got to go, man? All right, well, why don't you say goodbye to the people now, then?
What? Take a bite of who? What?
Say goodbye
The
to the
audience,
people
David.
who are fucking listening to this thing that we're recording.
Sorry. Ever since Bill made me lower my volume because of echoes, things sounded a bit more
I told you to
homoerotic on his
plug
end.
headphones in. That's what I told you. I didn't tell you to lower your volume. I told you to plug headphones in.
Yeah, but I have to walk to the other side of the house.
Oh no.
Well, technically the other side of my room, but
All right, David, you were saying goodbye.
I was saying goodbye.
All right. So
Right.
thanks for
And
coming
remember,
on,
children.
man. This was a lot of fun. We appreciate it.
And as I was saying, the F word is a no-no word. What I mean by F word is fudgesicle.
Okay.
All right, pull
Because it's full
pull
of sugar.
one of those out of your ass, lick it, go about your business. All right.
Right.
See you around, bro. Peace.
All right, see you.
Wow, what an adventure that man is. So anything else you guys want to see from the future? Jet Jaguar. I'm definitely down.
I definitely want a stronger.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want a stronger human cast. I want to see what happened to the rest of the monsters.
I think it would be nice if we got a plot. That would probably help move things along.
Hey, look, there's Godzilla. Let's go kick his ass. Yay, we did it. Oh shit, we didn't.
I didn't mind the direction of the story in this. Like, I thought that was fine. I just thought they
just
should have gotten to the point
was,
quicker and done more exploration. They didn't get the chance.
Yeah. I thought there should have been more meat on the bones.
Yeah, sure, but the actual bones were fine. They just didn't get the chance to put enough on there.
Right. Yeah.
I thought there was a plot and that it was fine in theory that they just fucking dragged their asses in getting us to the interesting stuff.
The whole plot of this movie is basically the third act of Shin. It's all like, here's a plan, let's go do it. And then that's the whole movie.
Well, but I mean, the whole thing is they're returning to Earth to try to defeat Godzilla, and in the end, they do. I mean, it's not a super complex plot, but it's a plot.
Maybe if you played it up more like that, maybe if you did it as like some sort of like Ocean's 11 like heist movie all about how they're going to destroy Godzilla. And like laying out the plan and doing shit. I don't know.
I mean, at least that would have been interesting. About like the whole break in status quo is, well, I mean, the first break in status quo is that Haruo gets put in jail, but then it's the paper is released on how to maybe defeat Godzilla, so that kind of becomes the snowball to get things going. I liked all that.
Isn't the first change in status quo when his grandpa gets all James Franco'd?
No, I just said that.
Yeah.
So when that gets blown up and he gets thrown in jail, but then the next thing is the Godzilla paper getting released.
Right, so that we can get him out of the jail that we just put him in.
Well, he was in there for fucking quite a while, too long, in my opinion. That's another problem. Is like he's disconnected from everybody for so long that when he comes out, you're like, how do even these people feel about him? You know, like how did they interact with him before he was in jail?
You know what this universe needs? It needs its own version of Captain Gordon. Bring in a Captain Gordon character. Actually have him voiced by Dodd Fry. Go all out.
Indeed.
The character might not come out the same because he doesn't have any memories, but at least it'll be...
I understood that reference.
I think
it'll be entertaining nonetheless.
All right, then. I think we have said quite a bit. So is there anything else that you guys want to throw in there before we pull a David and tell the people not to pull fudge sickles out of their asses?
Well, since we're done talking about this movie, basically, and since we don't have SOS for a while because we're on hiatus, how about, did you read that interview with Ice Cube's son about the next Legendary movie? I
did.
It sounds like we're in for some good shit. I don't know. There was just something so great about seeing fucking mini Ice Cube geeking out about Godzilla.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm excited. I'm glad to hear excited to work on that film and excited to see it. You know, like that's awesome. I don't know. I feel like that movie has been so long in production. We need to see something from it so we can go like, oh, that's what it's going to be like. Okay, because it's so it's so vague right now. Like we don't know what that movie's going to like really. You know, what's it gonna feel like? You know, what's the pace gonna be? What's the direction gonna be like? Because 2014, you know, it was definitely very different from what we thought. but we still
Although-
had a basic idea of what it was going to be like story-wise. This,
Although-
I don't fucking know. I think
But-
maybe Ghidorah, like that's maybe the basic idea. But
I'm
outside
hoping
of
we
that,
get
I got
some.
no fucking idea.
I'm hoping we get some footage to come out of Comic-Con this year.
They're gonna have to, maybe but it might just be like a little teaser, and they might
Like
not
they did
release
back
it.
in.
Here's a shadow.
Yeah.
And remember, they practically sold 2014 at Comic-Con the previous year. Like that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I think they would.
Comic-Con 2013,
Yeah,
that's right.
I did want to make this observation that it was very ironic that it turns out that America has a version of Godzilla that's the most in line with what people expect out of Godzilla, whereas Toho's doing a lot of this Elseworlds experimentation.
But that's
Yeah,
kind
I
of what I
mentioned-
wanted them to do from the onset because of
I
that.
mentioned
Mhm.
I mentioned that in the comments somewhere. I was like, who would have ever guessed that America would like ever out Godzilla Japan?
Or just make the more traditional version and completely reverse it, given the 98 and then we went to 2000 and it was a complete opposite thing where they brought Godzilla back to a more traditional status quo as opposed to what America did. But I don't know, like I said, I wanted them to do that from the onset. I just haven't been totally satisfied with every way in which they've executed that idea. To we'll do some different stuff with Godzilla. Since America is, basically doing the one we've been doing for the past 60 years. So,
They'd never do this because this is an American property, but I'd love to see like an anime adaptation of like 100 or Half Century War or some of the better comic stuff that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd never do that again because
that would
that's
have
like
to be American
comics.
animation, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
I would love that.
And the IDW Godzilla books have only recently started coming out in Japan, right? Like, remember
Yeah.
Oh, is that true?
Recently, yeah, I remember recently, like Rulers of Earth was coming over there, and like there were these new alternate covers, and like it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. I would definitely love to see that, though. Half Century War is one of my favorite things ever. But all right then. So, I guess we should, since we're just kind of doing Godzilla around the news table. I'm gonna look up the gentleman's name, but a big actor in the Godzilla franchise passed away. If it wasn't yesterday, it was a few days ago. I just have to look up his name. Andres, do you remember his full name? Otherwise I'm gonna look it up.
Sorry, no, I'm just gonna...
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
You're better off looking at Patrick Galvin's.
I'm just gonna
Facebook.
go to Godzilla 1985 and I know who he played in that.
he was in that, and wasn't it Monster Zero?
No, it was Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. It's
Yosuke-
Yosuke Natsuki.
I'm glad you said it because I would have butchered the pronunciation. But yes, that is his name. Professor Hayashida is one of my favorite fucking characters in the entire Heisei series. He shows up in that movie and he's like, I used to want to fucking murder Godzilla with weird chemical shit, but now I just think he's cool. Like, the greatest thing ever. And then he was also like, in Ghidorah. He was a great
he was the main hero.
Great male lead in Ghidorah. One Godzilla character is named Shindo. And he's great in that movie, yeah.
And apparently he was also in Yojimbo in 1961 and Storm Over the Pacific in 1960, according to Patrick.
Yes, so that's very prestigious. Got to work with
what presence he had. Fucking just every time he showed up on screen, you're like, oh, this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now I sound like David with all my homoerotic shit, but hey, with him,
you already had that with Gondo.
You know what? With Godzilla leads, I'm willing to break that line. You know. Oh, but
let's see.
He definitely had a huge impact on me growing up with those two characters. Those were two big ones for me growing up.
Oh, apparently he was also in the H-Man.
Oh, really?
Is he the main?
Yeah.
Is he the? Oh.
Is he the H-Man?
Is he the H-Man himself, or is he one of the cops? Or
he played a puddle of blue Jello.
Yeah. I mean, good. Good on him. But
Okay, maybe he debuted in that movie, but he wasn't a starring actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was early 60s, whereas Ghidorah's like 64.
Let's see. And yeah, he passed away on January 14th, 2018 at the age of 81 in Tokyo, Japan.
He definitely lived a life, man. So good for him, and definitely sad that he passed on, but he left a lot behind. So definitely a lot to be proud.
Holy shit! He was also in Monster X Strikes Back: Attack the G8 Summit. That was like the Gulala sequel
Didn't we
reboot
see
thing.
a bit of that one at G Fest, or was
Yeah,
it the original?
we
A
did.
little bit.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, clearly that's the highlight of his career. I mean,
I remember that movie also had Susumu Kurobe. I might be butchering that name as well, but it was the actor who played Hayata from Ultraman. He was in that movie also.
oh,
And and Yosuke Natsui. Yosuke Natsuki. He was also in Dogora, who was a monster that appeared in this movie.
Yeah.
So we can officially call Dogora a Godzilla monster now.
Yeah.
my God. Yeah.
Wasn't he
Great.
supposed to show up in Final Wars?
Yeah,
I have
use
no
stock
idea.
Footage? Haven't they used stock footage of him before in something else? Either Final Wars or what was the other one that like we?
No, because in Final Wars,
Or was it
there's stock
against
footage of,
Mechagodzilla when they
Ghidorah.
were?
I
Or
do
is
know
it
that Dogora actually made a cameo appearance in the NES Godzilla game, Godzilla Monster of Monsters, where you can see
That's
him in
probably
the
what I'm
space
thinking
background.
of. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
Did they
But
not
then you
use
also
stock
have
footage of him?
you have Kamibis showing up in Tokyo SOS, so there's a precedent for that.
Did they not use stock footage of him in Against Mechagodzilla when they were like weaving all of the non-Godzilla
No, they didn't
Toho?
bring
Oh,
up
no.
It's
Mm.
Mothra, Gyra. They don't even bring up
That's
Rodan.
it.
They don't bring up Rodan.
No, just those two.
I
They
could have
don't
swore
bring
they.
up
Our
Varan.
two most iconic monsters, Mothra and Gyra.
Yeah.
They were half
really,
right.
I was so excited when they fucking brought up fucking Gyra in that movie. I was like, oh my god, I remember that.
I've never heard of War of the Gargantuas up to that point,
Oh,
so I was like,
really?
who the fuck is that guy?
Oh, no, I had
Bigfoot
seen-
Gyra?
Oh no, I had seen more of the Gargantuas by that point. When they called him Gyra, I was like, who? This is
The cool part for me
that's
was
the
when I
Green
found out that
Gargantua.
the cool part for me was when I found out that the old guy from that movie was the same guy from the original Mothra movie, and not just the same actor either, the
wait
actual
a-
same
guys,
character.
We're fucking up. We're fucking up. That scene was in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. The
Yeah.
guy from Mothra was in Tokyo SOS. They're different movies.
Oh, you're right. I fucked that up. Shit.
They feel like this. Well, I said Tokyo. I started that off though. I said Tokyo SOS. It's that scene's in against Mechagodzilla. I mean, they're kind of one movie, but still, they're not. They're kind of.
They are kind of one.
They're kind of not though. In a way, they were kind of released as two separate movies. In a way.
Well,
In a sense.
Even then, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla was able to accomplish a lot more.
Than this movie.
Yeah.
I like it more, certainly. I would have to say so. But many things have been said, and many things will continue to be said. This is just one of those things. I don't know what that means. All right, so
you could
Godzilla-
literally end every video or conversation in your life with that statement.
I know, right? It's what's so great about it. All right, so Godzilla Planet of the Monsters aside, I want to talk about some SOS stuff because we're here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we are going to be on hiatus for the rest of January. We'll be coming back in February. We'll be back with fucking all kinds of hot news, all kinds of cryptids, all kinds of commentaries, all kinds of David being insane to the point where we have to question whether or not he's actually competent enough to be on this podcast. To which we say, what kind of podcast would we have without him? Like, we come on here and be, like, straight-laced fucking every week. So, what are we going to do? So, we'll be back in February. DFOS will be the same exact deal. We'll be back around exactly the same time. We've already got podcasts planned out for 2 months before, after we come back. So, definitely get excited. We have... Dylan, do you want to announce the first thing? Keep it a secret, or what do you want to do?
You mean the first thing we're talking about in February?
The DFOS special. Would you like to keep that a secret? Because I'll announce the other thing, because why not? We've talked about it before.
Up to you. I don't really care.
All right, well, we're doing two things. Dylan had an idea to do a special month all devoted to porn. Nah, we're going to do that later. All devoted to samurai films.
Let's be honest. That's every month. But yeah,
We'll talk a lot about porn, yeah.
But March will be Samurai Month on the Demons from Outer Space. We're actually two of the things we'll be reviewing are not actually samurai films. They're American things that are kind of take some inspiration or influence from samurai stuff. But then the last 2 weeks will be a deep dive into some classic Kurosawa and other stuff. So get excited. Samurai Month coming for your ass
in March.
March.
Now in August, right? No, we have to start in July because it comes out like August 9th or something. Whatever. In late summer, there is a new Predator movie coming out. So Dylan McCandless and I have one mission: to watch and commentate over every single Predator and Alien, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and all the EVPs in a row, chronologically as they were released. It's going to be insane. It's technically going to be the longest one we've ever done, like, in one go. Like, technically, the Kong stuff is longer because we did addendums to it, but there's a lot of movies in that technically combined franchise. So, get excited for that. We're working on that presently. So, indeed. Lots of other things to come around that. That'll not be it. Believe you me. Andres, is there anything you wanted to throw out to the people before I press the stop button?
Definitely. What's going to happen on the channel is that Matt Denian, a kaiju thriller novelist, most known for his novel series of Atomic Rex, he and I are going to be doing a series of reviews covering the entire history of Godzilla in animation in celebration of the Netflix release of Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. We're going to be covering everything from Hanna-Barbera up to the new movie, and even do a commentary for what may potentially be a possible inspiration for Godzilla in the form of the Max Fleischer Superman short, The Arctic Beast. Or was it The Arctic Giant? Yes. Don't worry, I get that title wrong so many times throughout the retrospective. Look forward to that.
I love that fucking short. And yeah, it's very Godzilla.
It's crazy because that came out like years before
that's like
both Godzilla.
43, right?
Yeah, it sounds right.
Earlier than that? It could be 41.
Yeah, because like this was like way before both Godzilla and the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and you look at it, it's like that's fucking Godzilla.
I mean, those came out before World War II ended. Like he fights Hitler in some of those. So yeah.
So let's see. So look forward to that. Also, you can check out the official Facebook page for Primal Warrior Draco Azul, the comic book starring the big blue robot that you may recognize as my on-screen avatar / mascot on my YouTube channel. Where you can check out that site, check out the Facebook page for all the latest info and previews of the art for that comic. And also, I will be branching out, and you will be seeing Draco Azul in the near future in several projects. What projects those may be and what collaborating with who exactly, you'll have to find out in the near future. I know that I'm going to be having my good friend D-Man 1954 do a big old news update for that to reveal that information, just like he did initially when he showed off the first couple pages of the book along with a brief plot synopsis for the comic book story.
Sounds good to me, man. I mean, like that page and like the Sons of Serizawa Network homepage to get fucking everything. Like you can follow, Andres puts all his Draco Azul stuff on that, so you can find the page through that as well, and you can connect that shit and fucking get everything we fucking do. So that'll all be in the description below.
Oh, by the way, Andre said the word retrospective, and that reminded me. In the near future, Bill and I will also get back on the train of finishing our Godzilla Odyssey retrospective.
Because we only have 2 more. We only have to do 2 more videos, so
yeah,
we have to do that.
We've nearly finished talking about the thing we never finished. So get excited.
We'll probably end up doing that sooner rather than later, because we've got some time off still. So we'll probably record that in the next few weeks. We should do that before we start the other thing we were going to start recording, without a doubt. Because we were going to start that next week, and if we're going to do that, we should talk about that off recording. So, all of that advertising And consumerist nonsense aside, that, my dear fellows, was a talk about a Godzilla movie. I had a delightful time. We hope you had a delightful time listening. These are, they used to be rarer, so we can only be thankful. So, we hope you enjoyed. Until next time we meet, in February, I am Bill Worster, better known to the world as Zazubaar.
I'm Super DM64, and now we can all look forward to Rampage.
Yay!
Is that the next monster movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Is
Otherwise known as
Pacific Rim was not before that? I thought Pacific Rim was before that.
No, I think I don't know. Let me look at the release dates. Not sure. Or as I like to call it, San Andreas 2.
Monstrous Boogaloo.
He remembers how to fly a helicopter in that other movie. Anyway.
And I'm Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, and ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly the way it's been.
You're right. Pacific Rim is in March, and Rampage is in April. So
thank God.
Yeah. This makes me very happy.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad they're putting out Pacific Rim in March because you don't want that. It's a way smarter release window for that kind of movie. Like that's when Kong came out, and Kong did well in that little stretch of time that it had. I think Pacific Rim will do well. Even if that movie isn't as good as the first one, which I don't think it will be, personally, based on the trailer, it still looks like fun and poppy, and it'll do well in that.
It's always a good idea
in that area.
It's always a good idea to schedule your movies in between. Between.
Never mind.
It's always a good idea to schedule your movies' release dates in between the Marvel movies.
Right, because Black Panther's February, and then Infinity War is May. So.
Okay, so it looks like it's going to come out in Japan in April 13th, so it's not the same time, but it's not that far off, about like a week or two off.
We'll definitely wait to do a big spoiler analysis until you've seen it.
That's so weird. Pacific Rim Uprising is coming out in Japan like around the same time that we'll be getting Rampage.
That's crazy. When are you getting Rampage?
Let me check right now.
12th of November.
Let's see. And release date. Release info. We're always the last country to get this sort of stuff.
The movies that we talk about on our podcast, yes.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Actually, I don't see a Japan release so far.
They're not even going to bother. They're like, we know they're going to hate this.
I see April 20th for the US, but I see nothing for Japan. In fact,
it might be a worldwide release the same day.
Potentially. Actually, there's far less countries here.
Maybe they just haven't negotiated.
It's still a little bit of a ways out. But anyway,
the other countries have to approve like what movies get imported and whatnot. Fun story: Saudi Arabia is going to get to their first movie theaters for the first time in like 20-something years. And you know what the first movie is that they're screening? It's the Emoji Movie.
Wow, what a victory! What a victory for cinema.
So another 20-something years of no cinema.
So that's sure to improve our relations with the Middle East.
And that was the greatest accomplishment of this video. Good night, folks.